This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the Lean Builder, Hoots on the Ground podcast. And I am really excited for this week's episode. We're about to kick off something super special. I've got a couple friends here with me. Julie, Dolan. Say hi to the people, Miss Julie.
Hi, people.
Nice. Right on cue. And I've got Ranger Winnie, Brian Winningham here with us today as well. Say hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian. Hi, everybody.
You guys listen really well. This is going to be an awesome podcast. I am super excited because we all have personal stories. We're all invested in a deeper way into the mental health side of construction. Next week is a really special week. I can't wait to dive into really the why that we're here. But before we do that, I just want to let y'all get a little comfortable with us here today. Miss Julie, maybe you can kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why mental health is so important to you.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. So I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, a wife, a friend, and a colleague. And I'm the board chair of our local soup kitchen. I'm on a regional board at Children's Hunger Alliance, and I'm an engineer and a lean practice leader. I work at SSOE, which is a global engineering and architectural firm in Toledo, Ohio. And I'd say I'm the rock of my family, the provider, the protector, the enabler, and the defender. Mental health is important to me because I personally am the face of collateral damage in this conversation today. I've had my own mental health issues, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I want to make a difference in this industry. And for too long, I've enabled others' mental health issues to go untreated, unrecognized, and to their own detriment, even ending in death in one case. And I want to make a difference. And that's why it's important to me.
I love that. Thank you so much. And there's so many things I want to dive into. But first, Ranger Winnie, just tell us a little bit about who you are and why mental health is important to you.
I'm a lean coach in the industry, but I was a project manager for a lot of years, and I suffer from a mental illness. And it's really easy to see, how people get to the place where they feel like that there's no hope. For me, that's not a long walk for me to be able to see that because of my mental illness. But it's just so important. We lose about 1,000 people a year to construction accidents, but we lose 4 to 5 times that to suicide. And it's even another 4 to 5 times that we lose to opioid overdoses. I saw the statistics came out not too long ago from Department of Labor, and construction's number one in opioid overdoses, the number one industry, at 162 people per 100,000. That's a lot. So that means someone has been touched by this. It's so critical that we start looking at the things that are causing us to die by suicide and to die by overdose. It's the biggest thing we really face as an industry, and nobody's talking about it.
It's unacceptable. Yes. And I am Adam Hoots, and I think the audience knows me pretty well. They may or may not know that I have also been touched very deeply from mental health, both personally and with those around me, just the same. I have known 3 folks who have died by suicide within the industry. Also, I've had my own struggles, I will say, still, again, currently battling, even with the whole kidney thing, right? I'm a firm believer that a lot of what the industry put me through led to a lot of what I did in order to drive my kidneys to where I am. I also suffered from opioid abuse back in the day. And quite honestly, am scared to even touch it anymore. And again, those of you may or may not know, I am on kidney dialysis right now. And I firmly believe a lot of it was from my struggles early on. And anyways, so we're here today, I guess, to touch on a subject that obviously is very personal to all of us. I would love to hear from either one of you, and maybe Brian, you can kick us off. What's the purpose of us being here together today and what are we kicking off?
There's a great organization, and we'll put the links to it somewhere in the show notes or whatever, wherever you keep them.
Yep, yep.
But constructionsuicideprevention.org is a great organization. They're fairly new. I think they were started during the pandemic when we really started seeing people start to understand what our numbers were in construction, because this doesn't start now. We're just now getting 2020 numbers. Being able to look at those numbers and see what's going on and start to find out what we've got to do something and start figuring out what that is. One of the things that I think what we're doing here today is trying to normalize some of these conversations. And I think that's a big thing. It's scary to come out and talk about, having a mental illness, because there's such a stigma attached to that, and people don't know what to say, don't know how to feel about that, and we want to normalize these conversations a little bit and just bring them out into the open. Sunshine is the great disinfectant, right? When you can shine the sunshine on your problems, it really can help clean those problems up a lot. And it really goes a long way being able to come up here and talk about these things. It helps me a lot, and hopefully someone will see something in our conversations today that they recognize, and maybe themselves or someone they know, and will look to get help, and someone gets help they need. That's my goal.
I'll say, as someone somewhat on the construction sidelines, as a wife and mother, it's time we turned the rock over and looked at the creepy crawly things underneath to move our industry forward. And really echoing what Brian said, awareness is the first step to change. I have a voice and I want to use it. I think at least the three of us on this call, we represent three different sides of this industry. Myself in maybe a unique position as somebody not directly in construction, but has supported construction in a 35 plus year career in design.
We'll claim you.
Absolutely.
You are my tribe.
We'll claim you for sure.
I think, Julie, you just said something that sparked to me, and you said you have been affected and you have a voice, and you also have a story to tell as well. And I think that's important, that, again, what Brian was alluding to, that we never shy away from our story. Again, even I'm sitting here reflecting on my introduction. I've never really said that aloud, that I had a problem with opioids back in the day. But I had a kidney disease. They gave me anything I wanted. I passed a bunch of kidney stones, and it was pretty regular. And I've never really told anybody that. Maybe my wife grudgingly, but yeah, it feels good to get that out in the open. Like you said, put some sunshine on it.
Yeah, the uniqueness of my story, certainly raised in an era where we didn't talk about mental health issues. And I'll say, as a mother and a wife, in the background, propping up people with these issues, we kept it out of the limelight and until we couldn't. And then when people are in psychiatric wards or treatment facilities or detox, or worse yet, they've died in a car accident that could have been prevented, those days are over for me. And I'm talking about it.
Yes.
The hurt's too much to keep inside, right? It just really is, but we do it anyway to our detriment so often. Sorry, Adam.
No, don't be sorry. You're right. We keep it bottled up until that bottle explodes and it results in death. I'm excited for us to come together and, again, just have real conversations on real topics. And we're going to do 3 episodes. So we're getting us kicked off today. We're going to bring some guests in, right? It's going to be super, super busy. We're going to come prepared with some awesome questions. Ranger Winnie, we're going to model the next 3-ish episodes after some of your writings. A lot of your writings have sparked some really deep, one, just self-reflection from my perspective, but 2, I think, thoughts among the community that have been special, that have been shared with me. And I want to make sure that those get shared with the world. What do y'all feel like the next 3 to 4 episodes are going to feel like, just to set the pace or set the tone for the audience here?
I'm excited. For those that don't know, I write poetry and short stories and articles and just all kinds of stuff. I don't really limit myself to one thing. I guess I just feel like a writer. But I've been writing some poetry about the construction industry, about the craziness that we call normal in construction and the things that we do and don't even bat an eye at. Like I haven't written about it, but one thing is everybody in this industry works 50 or 60 hours a week without batting an eye. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody even thinks anything about it. It is very rare that anybody in this industry works 40 hours a week, especially the salaried folks. And that's long term, that's really bad for you. And we do it for our whole career.
We're
And it's,
celebrated for it too. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. If you don't do it, you don't last long. It's institutionalized in our industry. I think that those kind of things. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited to answer your question, your original question. I'm really excited about being able to talk to some of these folks about what some of the words that I've written maybe might have sparked in them, and maybe some thoughts that they've had from thinking about this, and maybe how they might do things differently moving forward too. Some ideas. That's the really cool part. Is getting to crowdsource some ideas on what we can do as an industry to move forward.
And just building on that a little bit, as we do feature others from the industry that are sharing their experiences and reflecting really on their careers and where they've been, it'll be interesting to me to see what they might feel could have been different, can be different going forward. Now that we're talking about it, what can change? What can our roles be in the change?
Yeah, I think each of us play a unique role in what that change looks and feels like. For me, again, it's been like, hey, let's get out into the field and understand what are these real stories from job sites when people are working till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night and they're back the next morning at 5, 6, like that. It happens every single day, and it doesn't have to be that way. And it drives us to a different place. And so the next 3 episodes, I'm really hoping they resonate with people outside of where we are, and that some of the stories that we tell are people who have had that experience as well, and maybe kept it bottled up, and now we're providing them some type of an avenue to let it go and to expose it to the world, and listen to some of these ways that these other professionals have dealt with this, because there are real people in real situations dealing with the same exact thing across the nation, and we're all trying to discover new solutions for the same problem. And so when we can share as a community, it's going to be powerful. At least that's what I feel I see coming forward through this, is just real people giving real experiences on real things.
And in the background is someone like myself. While everyone's out working, I'll say 75 or 80 hours a week, someone is at home getting kids to school and doing homework and taking people to the hospital and missing work for the hospitalizations and the other things. This is larger than just
Yeah.
the individuals in construction. And that's what I bring to this conversation.
What a fantastic reminder that it's much bigger than the person that is dealing with the issues, right? That radiates through the entire family.
And I
And
know Brian's going to talk about this in a future episode, but there's a lot of travel in this industry. And so as folks leave their homes to go work some of these big job sites across the country and all these crazy hours to deliver these crazy schedules, there's someone left home to deal with everything in the background until it's
even if you're only working 50, 60 hours a week, but you're on the road, you still don't have that support system in place. You still don't get to go to your kids' ball games. You still don't get to do any of those other things. It doesn't matter if you're only working 60 hours on the road. That changes everything again.
and that's a weight too, right? That just
yeah,
adds to the problem, that
yeah,
guilt.
yeah. And you start looking for numbing, and you start. That's what all the opioid abuse is. That's what all of these things are. You start looking for ways to numb yourself to what's going on in your life.
I'm just gonna sit back and kick my feet up because y'all are doing a heck of a job here. I absolutely, yeah, yes, yes. And I just keep reflecting on my own story. Yes, like that. Yes, from working the 80 hours a week to the abuse to get rid of it, to the traveling, to my wife at home with my children, to when I come home, like the whole atmosphere is still like this job site kind of militaristic type feel. And man, yes, y'all are.
Working 80 hours how much do you have to give to your kid when
Or
they
to
need
help
it?
around the house.
Yeah. Or do you really feel like getting up and going and doing the dishes for your wife because she's had to do them every night this week?
Y'all can stop picking on me now.
Not, we didn't mean, and that's the figurative you, not you.
We're normalizing.
I know, but I'm like even. Ugh, I still feel
Yeah.
like fit this boat.
You had a flashback, and I'm sorry I caused that in you. I really am, Adam.
You're good. I'm glad I could get it there. So let's take this thing, and I heard both of you talk about moving forward and what change can happen. What change do you think our industry needs?
I think it needs kindness, understanding, and empathy. If I was to pick 3 words, awareness, resources, and progress, to pick 3 more.
Hold on. You went way too fast for that. I heard kindness, awareness, and empathy. Is that right?
Understanding,
Yes.
resources, and progress.
Understanding, resources. So you're going to have to break those down for me. I'm a little slow. The kindness and awareness, I agree. Take me down the other ones.
Empathy to me really is central to this conversation. You don't necessarily have to understand and sympathize with the person that's suffering, but as human beings, especially in the lean industry, respect for people is what we're about. It's what we talk about. And to just put yourself in someone else's shoes for a minute. Adam, you painted a picture for us of your own situation with the dialysis that you're on now and how this industry, at least in part, contributed to where you're at. I can't say that I can relate specifically to that, but I can empathize. Doesn't mean I feel sorry for you. It means that I want to make a change and I want to honor you in that way. Understanding comes then from a place of knowledge, right? So first we have to talk and understand and care, and then maybe we can see some progress and some change.
Yes. And I'm still struggling with what I put out there because, again, I don't know. It's hard for me to even say the industry caused this because it's like you said, don't feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for me either because I did it to myself. I allowed that to happen. I will say it to me again. I feel like I sound like a bit of a victim right now, and that bothers me. But what I'm hearing
Okay.
though, Julie say is my story matters to her, and she's willing to
Yes.
understand that in order to progress the things to move forward.
Yeah, and you're not alone either. Your story is not unique. Opioid abuse, alcoholism, self harm, it's all in my family. And is it because of the construction industry? I wouldn't say it's because of, but it certainly adds salt to the wound. It doesn't make it any better. And when you look at this industry and how normalized we say alcohol is, it's not the answer.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I have complex PTSD. And what that means is that a lot of people have heard of PTSD and they think that's like from combat or car accident or something really terrible happened to you. Someone got
Yes.
raped or you saw something terrible happen to someone else. And that is what that is. But what's happened to me is that it's happened multiple times. Like a whole lot of terrible things happen a bunch of times. And there are a lot of people that really probably suffer from that. My biggest thing was I didn't even realize it for years and years. And I think that a lot of people don't. But by not realizing it, it caused me to go out and seek out those bad situations and continue to put myself in those situations because of my illness. And then you put yourself in those bad situations, and then that you need something to when stuff goes to shit, you need something to numb all that. And then that's really it's a self-feeding and a self-building thing, and it's a hard thing to get around. It really is. But
Vicious system.
yeah,
You put
it's
an
a
enabler in the
vicious
background,
system.
and it only makes it easier for you to continue down that
Well, and
path.
it can't happen without enablers in the background, honestly,
And I'm not
right?
proud of that, but I've been that for decades.
And that's something that we do also as we not only enable it, we push other people into it and we harm other people and things like that. As a leader on a construction site, I didn't think anything of pushing people to do work that needed to be done, regardless of the harm to their health. You
And
signed a
what
contract, you need to be here.
Yeah. And what are their kids learning? What are your kids learning? What are my kids learning from watching this? We're teaching behaviors without saying a thing.
Yeah, I love, Julie, your constant reminder of the impact to others, right? You talked about the enablers and now the kid the kids, like, man, you're gonna choke me up here. It's real. It happens to, like, the effect. We talk about ripples of impact for the good. There's also those same ripples have an immense impact for the bad as well when
They're
not
more
taken
like an
control of.
undertow.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good analogy.
I worked away from home for a long time, and I can remember my 6-year-old daughter, 7-year-old daughter just hanging on my leg when I'm leaving the house on Sunday because I got to be at work at 5 a.m. Monday morning. And I know that because of my bad sleep, because I had sleep apnea that I didn't know about for a long time too, because that's one of the byproducts of trauma is sleep apnea for whatever reason. They don't even know why. But I can remember I would drive on Sunday because I couldn't get up and drive in the middle of the night. I'd fall asleep and I didn't want to die, but
Yeah.
just having to pull her off my leg to leave. And she's just crying so hard. And it's just
Yeah, and I,
breaks
I could
my
relate to
heart.
that too. I'm raising the grandkids while my son is off on a job in another state. And the 5-year-old says, "Is daddy coming home this weekend?" And I'm the one that has to say, "I'm sorry, he got mandated to work this weekend. He can't come home." It's tough.
Yeah, those are hard situations. Ranger Winnie, what do you think that the construction industry needs?
Kindness. I second that. I'm going to plug a really good friend's book, Karen Ross.
I love
She's the
her.
kindness expert. She's so awesome. And she's written a book called Kind Leaders. And it's just every leader in the construction industry should read it and do a book study on it. Really awesome. Honestly, it would be a great place to start to
Write that down.
understand what we're doing to people. I got to do one with Karen and it was awesome. I got to do a book study with her and on that book, and it was just freaking awesome.
What did you
So
learn?
it's not that I learned a whole lot that's new. It's just I got reminded of all the crap we learned in kindergarten about how we play with others. And it's that simple, really is. And it's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not. But all the really good crap is simple and hard to
Hmm.
do. The really good things in life are pretty simple concepts. Lean is a really simple concept and really hard to live. And kindness is too. We all
Hmm.
get up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes. It's a practice. If you practice kindness, then you'll get better at it.
Hmm.
That's really, yeah,
Hmm.
that's probably the main thing is making kindness a practice. And the tools to do that is probably the biggest thing I got out of that book. Yeah.
Miss Julie, how do you put kindness to work? How do you put kindness to action?
I have a business development background, which makes this maybe a little easier for me, but it's being fully present and listening and providing even just nonverbal clues and to say, "I understand," or maybe "I don't understand, but I'm sorry that's happening to you. What can I do? How can I help? How about I bring over dinner tonight and watch the kids for a couple hours? You can just have some time with your wife." Those are kind things. Advocating for a colleague at work who's so distressed that they can't find the right words to talk to their boss. I can help write that script. I've done all of these things and more. Kindness means you show up and you pay attention and you care.
Man, that was awesome. So that's like a clip. I'm definitely going to pull that out and shine that everywhere. That was amazing. Great said, Miss Julie. Thank you.
It's from
Uh,
the heart, Adam.
yeah, I can tell it shines like straight through. And every time I'm with you, I get that same feeling with both of you. I get that same sense of I matter, right? And
You
everybody
do.
around you matters. How about you, Brian? How do you show or demonstrate kindness to the world and yourself?
It starts with yourself, right? If you don't start there, and that really gets harder to provide kindness to other folks without feeling resentful. And it doesn't come from the right place. So you've got to start with self-kindness. And even our mental health starts with taking care of ourselves first and starting to really love ourselves and forgive ourselves for all the crap we've done. That's a hard one
Mhm.
for me. All my perfectionist tendencies that my mom instilled in me from a very young age. And perfectionism is a great quality, but it's not a great trait. If you can
That's so
temper it and and realize that it's trying, that's the important part, and as opposed to the result, then that can be a great trait. But otherwise, it can hold you back, and you never get to good enough, even for yourself. That's really a hard thing when you don't get to good enough for yourself, because that means you're always down talking to yourself. You're always having those hard conversations that you're talking to yourself in a way that you would never put up with anybody around you talking to someone else.
For sure. I'd like to double down on that. The self-care, the easy analogy is when you're on a plane, right? When the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first. We've all heard this. We've all been lots and lots of miles on planes. That's very hard to do when you're in the moment. And I think about when I've been raising my grandkids because my son is traveling and not able to come home. And all that means to be a 60-year-old grandmother with elementary school age kids and a side business and this business that pays the bills. You lose sight of that because you're so busy trying to get everything done. I gave up being a perfectionist a couple decades ago because it's not possible. But you got to get the kids clean. You got to get them to school. Homework should matter. And then there's the dinner and the laundry and the car repairs and the grass to be mowed. And then where's my time? I actually, I'm not ashamed to admit, I had to hire a coach to remind me that I needed to care for myself. And so I'm here in my home office. My yoga mat is right here on the floor. And I
Nice.
walk over it every day to come to work. And it's a visual reminder that I need to meditate and reflect and take a minute, even if it's just a 5-minute practice today, to center myself before I come to work.
Dang, you are crushing this, Miss Julie. I love it. Yes. Amen, sister. Amen.
I would urge people to seek professional help, because when you break your arm, you go to a doctor because you can't cure yourself. That's you don't have that capability. When you need your car repaired, you either, if you have the knowledge, you fix it yourself, but if you don't, you go to a mechanic. You go to people who know about these things and can give you the tools, because there's some really great tools out there, and not all the tools are the same for everybody. And I'm not any kind of healthcare professional at all. There are some really simple things. We don't have to be a professional to help people. And especially if you see someone in crisis, there's some really simple things. You have to be able to ask someone, are you thinking of harming yourself? And there's a lot of fear a lot of times if you see someone that's in distress, that might push them over the edge to get them to go ahead and do it. But it's the opposite of that. By putting it out there in the world, now you've made it real and out loud, and now they have to deal with it and think about it and talk to someone about it. And it actually makes them much less likely to attempt at that moment.
One of those resources being that National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 988. You can call or
Yes.
Mhm.
text it and just reach out to it. Somebody will be there to talk with you.
Yeah, but if you
And
see
it is
someone
a,
in
it is a
distress,
myth.
offer to call with them. Yeah.
Oh, sure. And it's a myth that asking someone if they're thinking about harming themselves or thinking about killing themselves, it's a myth that you urge them to do it by opening the conversation. Just the opposite is true. And I would add to what Brian just said, if you ask those questions, they need to be sincere. You need to be there, fully present, and bring empathy to the table and want to walk on that journey. Being insincere, don't even go there.
Julie and I both recently went through the mental health first aid certification process, and it was well worth it. It's long, it's an 8-hour class, but it gives you some simple tools to help people who may be in distress. And I think that step one in our industry, we have almost every project, at least that with the larger companies, has someone that's first aid qualified on site. They need someone mental health first aid qualified on site as well. I think that would be a great tool for companies to use. And I think some folks are mandating some, maybe not this organization's first aid certificate, but they have a company one or something like that. There are companies out there that are starting to fight this fight, and really glad to see that. Bolt is one of the companies I know
Mhm.
has a
And one of the
program.
things I'm doing with my certification here, again, in the design industry, is I've convinced our leadership to allow me to take one of our weekly safety moments and make it a mental health or well-being moment. So I have written 3 mental health well-being tips so far and 3 more on deck. So I've been able to do at least a limited series of converting safety to well-being.
That's
If folks
amazing.
go to the link, also, they have some safety briefs on there
Mhm.
about mental health
And
on
posters and
the
other resources.
constructionsuicideprevention.org website. Sorry, Adam.
No, don't be sorry. Again, yeah, that's yeah. So I've been surfing that website in the background, and they've got a lot of things out there. And I'm sure any of our
Mhm.
listeners could reach out to you, Miss Julie, for help getting something like that started, or
Absolutely.
Brian. Yeah, yeah. So please use us as resources. If you're trying to get something started within your own organization and you really want to make an impact from that perspective, reach out. Please reach out.
Mhm.
I'm stuck on the word kindness and how we apply that to construction, because a lot of times on job sites the kind person loses, right? Like the kind person gets run over. How do you strike a balance between being respected on a project site or on a project team and still showing kindness to others?
I think it's through empathy. It's a tough man industry for sure, tough woman too. And I think about my own son in this moment who's been hazed as he came through the apprenticeship training program, got all the shit jobs as an apprentice. And yet I think about the kindness that's been shown to him. And it's a brother coming over and putting his arm around him and saying, "Man, I see you suffering. What can I do?" It's that simple. Is just take a moment and care, really care about what somebody's facing.
It's amazing the amount of esprit de corps that really exists in our industry in pockets, in small pockets of folks. I've had situations where that has been just as good as I experienced in the military, when that team is clicking and we're all rowing in the same direction, and we've got everybody on board. We've got the vision, everybody's bought into the vision, and we're all headed in the same direction. And that's something that lean tries to help uh, do, by giving people flow. That's what we're talking about, right? Flow. And flow is kindness. We can see that flow is kindness. So if we've got to do something that someone doesn't like, that they're not getting with the flow in order to create flow, sometimes we have to create flow for so that our project will finish on time, so that we'll have a good job, and all those things are really important. And that's something that's been done without lean for a long time on projects. We've had good flow on jobs, the Empire State Building, and all those things that we can go back to and point at before lean was ever even thought. That is kindness. So sometimes if we've got to bring people up to our level to get there, we've got to figure out the right ways to do that don't involve us hazing them or belittling them or treating them in the wrong kind of way, because we're never going to get the right output from that. It's just that's bad stocks into your system, and it's just going to keep continuing on. And that's why we don't. And that's why most projects are late, and why most projects don't finish on budget. It's that. And I think that's the kindness that we need to see. We need to really define that. And each project has to define what that kindness is by figuring out what their flow is, what's important to them. I think, I don't know, that I saw you nodding your head. I think that kind of, is that a good answer?
Like you nailed it. It's deeper than being nice to somebody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's where people mistake the word kindness for just being nice or creating.
Being nice isn't a kindness most of the time, because that involves
Yeah.
lying to someone often.
Yeah. Or yourself even. Yes. So what would you two say we need to do in order to start spreading kindness through the industry more often?
Focus on flow.
Amen.
And all that means, that's again a simple concept that's really hard, but really worth it. And the really simple ones are really worth it. But
And I
yeah,
would add,
focusing.
you bring empathy
Yeah.
to that, empathy to flow, and that is kindness. Put yourself in the other person's shoes on the flow of the work. You're handing work off. All those seams is where things break down. And kindness comes from caring about the flow and your role in it.
Yeah, they say if you want to find a leak in a building, just go to the point where two scopes come together and there'll inevitably be a leak. And you're saying the same exact thing here.
I can remember back in the day, one time on a project that I had 7 different trades on my doors, on my entrance, in any kind of doorway. 7 different trades. And it was horrible. It was a school. And a school door, they go to a little different standard on, they'll go and slam them over and over again just to make sure that they work. And because the school door goes through the, where a house door will get closed 100 times, a school door will get closed 10,000 times. And so they have to work to a different standard. So it's, and having 8 different trades on one door was just, it was horrible. It led to a lot of not kind things to happen when that goes on.
Yeah, I love how this conversation, and I did not plant this by any means, but it came back to flow. I'm a huge advocate for establishing flow on projects because flow comes in many different forms. What are some of the forms that y'all deal with flow on a daily basis?
On the design side, right, it's discrete pieces of scope that come together in the model, that come together in daily huddles. Another place that you can show kindness in the huddle. For us, it's the flow of the design. It's early engagement with trades and builders to make sure that what we're designing, it can be built.
Yeah, having the
Yeah.
whole thing in mind as you're going through your piece. Yes. What
Mm-hmm.
about you, Brian?
So let me define flow for me
Please.
a little bit. So when I was in the military, we had we did certain tasks over and over and over again. It's called building muscle memory. And the reason that you build muscle memory is so that you don't have to think about the tasks as you do them. Because what that does is it allows you to be in the moment instead of worrying about what's coming next with your task. You're allowed to be in the moment and you can think outside of the task that you're performing. You can think of ways to improve it. You can think of all kinds of things that you can't see when you're worried about completing the task. And that's muscle memory is how you get to flow, by building that muscle memory, by getting those reps in, by building those good habits that allow you to not have to think about what it is that you're doing so that you can think beyond what you're doing. You can think about the implications of what you're doing. You're not giving snap responses to people. You can actually stop in the moment and think about it because you don't have 57 things that are behind. And it's that building muscle memory is how you can get to flow, by having that work that you can do without having to think specifically about that work, by being in the moment. And that's really building muscle memory, is where building those habits is where we can all get to that point. And it's just figuring out what those good habits that you need to build are for each individual, and where your weaknesses are or where your strengths are. Even we need to start looking at, you can't just rely on those strengths and not grow those as well. And we often just focus on our weaknesses and don't even think about growing our strengths also.
Yeah, so what are those habits that you do on a daily basis that really help to drive the kindness or any of these other, the
I,
empathy or the awareness, any of these other outstanding words?
I can't start a day without meditation for me. If I start a day without meditation, I am not centered. I am not focused. I'm not my best person. I'm not the best person I can be.
How long is that?
Writing,
What does that look like for you?
I, you don't want to know what it looks like. I cry almost every time I meditate. It's funny. When I first started doing it, my wife and kids were like, "Are you okay? Is that normal? Are you sure that's okay?" Because cathartic for me. It's my PTSD started in childhood. The traumas that happened to me started in childhood. And I was in 3 major car accidents as a teenager. And then after that, I was an Army Ranger and in combat. So I put myself in all those positions. I'm not asking anybody to feel sorry for me. As a kid, I didn't have any choice in a lot of the things that happened to me, and kids don't. It, as an adult, after you suffer trauma, a lot of times it'll lead you to put yourself back in those. We talked about that earlier. But for me, it's meditation is a big one. Writing, journaling is helpful. There's, oh gosh, I'll have to look. Hang on one second. Cognitive behavioral therapy tools that my therapist would give me, CBT. I don't usually spell it out.
Not CBD, CBT.
CBT.
I'm with you.
CBT, cognitive behavioral tools that my therapist has taught me that helps me figure out what's real and what's not sometimes, because your mind can play tricks on you.
And I'll add to that, those are great things. Tactically, some things that I do. And I'll preface this by saying we've never been more connected through technology and more alone. Aren't we all three sitting at home working?
Yes.
Where is the water cooler conversation? Those things are.
I'll have that with my wife in a little while.
Yeah, that's good. But taking a moment to send a text message, hey, how are you doing today, brother? And one of the great things that SSOE has, we have a recognition program here, a monetary and I'll say social recognition program inside SSOE. Any employee can give anyone an award and recognition. And there are guidelines to it. As managers, we're encouraged to give out a number of those across the year, but anyone can do it. And those little acts of kindness add up.
Yeah, that just made me think. I just finished reading a book that Hal Maycomer recommended. The book was called Everybody Matters.
Oh.
And it's a study of Barry Waymiller. And within Barry Waymiller, they do the same thing where anybody can acknowledge and create an award for anybody else that's doing something extraordinary. And that simple recognition goes so far with certain people. So we're coming down to the end here, right? And I want to center us back on what we're doing and what our mission, what our goal, what our purpose is for this episode, as well as the next 3 episodes and beyond, for the change that we're seeking within the design and construction industry. I guess how would you each put like the most utopia condition that exists? What if you could design all? What would that look like, Miss Julie?
For me, the utopian condition is a combination of better hours and better working conditions. But truthfully, for me, utopia is where respect for people is evidenced on every job site. That's the owner, the designer, the builder, the trades. Everyone is showing respect. If we all had respect for each other, the world would be a better place.
I love it. All right, Brian, I'm going to ask you the same question now and give you the center stage. What is your utopia for the construction industry?
It's where everybody matters and everybody knows they matter. We have people on our projects. We don't even learn their names. Jesse talks about this a lot. And it's so critical. It's easier not knowing anything about these people. I guess where my utopia is where everybody knows each other, respects each other, is kind to each other, and we're going to see benefits from that. There's no way we can't. We are hurting for people in our industry right now, and we need to give them reasons to come. And we can't do that unless we change some of the ways that we are. I think that's it.
That's what lean builders do. I'm sitting here thinking like that when you're talking about everybody matters and caring about the person, and that's what a lean builder does. And I'm super proud to be here with you two by my side, escorting me through this unknown land, and hopefully we can get others to join along with us. We want folks to just be aware, right? Once we're aware, then we can start to do something about it. And so I'm excited for everything that we have going on. Our conversations each week have stemmed from coloring books to podcasts to writings to different books. And I know that between us three that we are going to create something that the industry needs in order to really benefit those who are being hurt on a daily basis. So I don't know exactly what that looks like right now. And I'm even more excited to find out what that is. And if you want to be a part of this, please speak up, come out, participate, open up. We want to hear your story because your story matters. Everybody's story matters. And it's your responsibility to get your story into the world. And so use whatever platform necessary, create your own if you have to. Again, I am really excited about what is going to take place over the next 3 weeks. I guess, how do y'all want to close that? I've done enough talking on this episode. I am going to just be quiet and just let you two take us out and get us ready for the next few weeks.
Should we sing Kumbaya?
I'll begin by saying I think we move the industry forward one starfish at a time. And you think about it, I see the beach there in the background, Adam. And I think about the story of the little boy that is walking down the beach and casting the starfish back in. And a man comes by and says, "Son, you're not possibly going to make a difference. They're going to die." He says, "I made a difference for that one." And I think that's where we're at, right? We need to play our part. We need to advocate from where we're at. And for me, that's being an empathetic friend and colleague and just continuing to be kind.
If you're feeling hopeless, if you feel like there's no way out of the mess you're in, there is. There's somebody here who cares. We care. All of us care. We want you to know that, and we want you here. We need you here with us. We need you for the work. We need you for your ideas, and we need you, just the person you are. So please, if you need someone to talk to, you can call me. If you need, you can always call 988, but please stay with us. I'm begging you.